CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
Every single day, our Conservative caucus and I will be holding the government to account.
I've been informed a party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed.
Hello, and glad you can join us. The leader speaking after last night's election, and what a difference a few months makes. Mark Carney woke up this morning, the elected Prime Minister of Canada, after the Liberals pulled off a storybook come-from-behind victory. The Conservatives today confused and frustrated, a second-place finish, a leader without a seat, the NDP collapsing in support, their leader stepping down. As for the Bloc and Greens, well, CTV's Rachel Aiello takes a look at the map of Canada and the transformation of the next Parliament. Rachel.
Sandy, in an election largely about Canada not becoming the United States, the next minority parliament sure looks a lot like a US-style two-party system, with a weakened Bloc Québécois and the NDP having its worst showing ever.
At this hour, the Liberals are leading or elected in 169 ridings. The Conservatives are poised to win 144, the Bloc 22, the NDP 7, and the Greens 1. In Atlantic Canada, the Liberals picked up a seat and the Conservatives lost one. In Quebec, NDP and Bloc losses helped push the Liberal number up, and the Conservatives, despite gaining, came third in the popular vote in that province. But the Conservatives overperformed in Ontario, gaining 15 seats, half of which were in the 905 around Toronto. The vote shift in this province and the NDP's collapse benefited both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre in different regions. In the prairies, the shifts were less pronounced. But there were big changes in British Columbia and more big NDP losses. In Metro Vancouver, that worked to the Liberals' favor. While on Vancouver Island, the Conservatives picked up NDP ridings that Jagmeet Singh targeted in the dying days of the 36-day campaign.
Voter turnout was up from 2021, and if you think your vote doesn't count, consider this. Standing between Carney clinching a majority win were around just 600 votes in 3 ridings. And the Conservatives could have won a minority if they had picked up another 8,000 votes or so in 13 ridings. Sandy?
All right, Rachel, thank you for this. Every vote counts for sure. So what's next for Mark Carney, and what are the obstacles that he faces? CTV senior political correspondent Mike Couture has some of the answers to these questions. Mike.
Well, Sandy, after eking out a win and celebrating with a mini concert at his victory party, Prime Minister Mark Carney got right to work this morning, focused on uniting the country as Canada fights a trade war with the United States. Prime Minister Carney arrived at his office saying he had a lot of energy and a lot to do. As the trade war with the U.S. continues, Carney's other challenge is to govern a country divided along political lines.
And my message to every Canadian is this: no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, no matter how you voted, I will always do my best to represent everyone who calls Canada home.
In a minority parliament, the Liberals will have to find a dance partner in order to pass any legislation. And it would seem the Bloc Québécois is ready to listen.
Kind of a truce in which the Liberals would refrain from being offensive about language and security of the state and immigration and oil. Looking at what we have in common and working on that.
A working relationship that premiers say could use a reset as the country continues to fight a trade war with the U.S.
I want to work alongside this federal government to build a strong and growing Saskatchewan, as I said, within a very united and strong growing nation of Canada.
BC's premier went one step further with this message for members of Parliament.
This is the time for all MPs to pull together and to deliver for Canadians regardless of party, to deliver the stability that we need and a strong united face against Donald Trump.
As Canadian politicians call for a collective response, the new U.S. ambassador to Canada was received by Governor General Mary Simon at Rideau Hall. Carney and Trump spoke on the phone today, where the U.S. president congratulated him on his victory, and the two leaders agreed to meet in person in the near future. Sandy?
Okay, Mike, thanks. Let's talk about the Conservatives who were poised for victory. And although their numbers show strong gains across the country, they are not where they hoped to be the morning after. CTV's Abigail Beeman now on the challenges ahead for Pierre Poilievre and his party. Abigail.
Sandy, I'm standing in the Ottawa area riding of Carleton. Pierre Poilievre has held this seat since 2004. And in the most surprising upset of all last night, voters have now flipped it Liberal red.
It's a bittersweet moment.
Taking down lawn signs this morning, Jeff Turner has worked on every Pierre Poilievre campaign since the first in 2004.
It's a shock, really. You know, there was rumors of a possible change, but it wasn't really something I was ready for, or that any of us working for Pierre were really expecting.
While nationally, Conservatives picked up the biggest vote share since 1988, and in Ontario, they won 1 million more votes than Premier Doug Ford did at his re-election.
I'm focusing on unity right across this country. We have to bring this country together like we've never had before.
In his own riding, Liberal Bruce Fanjoy beat Poilievre by more than 4,300 votes.
No matter what happens tomorrow, I will be there to fight for you.
From his final campaign rally to his election night speech, the now seatless opposition leader made it clear he's not interested in stepping aside.
It will be an honor to continue to fight for you and to be a champion of your cause as we go forward.
But parliamentary experts say the man known for being a question period pit bull will have to watch from the gallery until he can win a new seat.
Mr. Poilievre would basically have to convince one of his Conservative members to give up their seat, which would then trigger a by-election.
Back in Carleton, it's still hard to process.
What is Carleton without Pierre Poilievre?
I don't know.
Every election, Poilievre is known for door knocking at as many houses as possible here in this riding. As one senior Conservative source put it to CTV News, this time he wasn't here, door knocking across the country instead, inadvertently sacrificing his own seat to pick up 24 more. Sandy?
All right, Abigail, thanks for this. Now, last night saw the almost complete collapse of the NDP, losing 17 seats, holding on to 7. Gone is official party status, and leader Jagmeet Singh has stepped down after a personal defeat. CTV's Judy Trin now on where the party goes from here and whether all is lost. Judy.
Sandy, not only did Jagmeet Singh lose his Burnaby riding to a Liberal candidate with little national name recognition, his party is now in tatters. After leading the NDP for nearly 8 years, Jagmeet Singh was unable to win his own riding, coming third behind the Liberal winner and the Conservatives.
Tonight, I've been informed a party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed. Now, I could not have done this incredible job without, here's a point, give me a second to break down a bit. I couldn't have done it without the incredible support of my wife, Kidden.
Before the dissolution of Parliament, the New Democrats had 24 seats. It was only able to hold on to 7. The NDP has lost official party status. That means it loses its research budget in Parliament, and its MPs will lose the opportunity to ask scheduled questions in the House of Commons.
I'm hopeful for our party. I know that we will always choose hope over fear, and optimism over despair, and unity over hate.
This was the NDP's worst showing in its history. Worse than 1993, when it won 9 seats under Audrey McLaughlin.
People were afraid of Donald Trump, and they were afraid of Pierre Poilievre. And when I knocked on the door, and people said, hey, we like the work you're doing, we like Jagmeet, but we're just scared this time, and we feel like we need to go to vote for Mark Carney to stop Pierre Poilievre.
Parliament is expected to resume sometime in May. Meanwhile, the NDP's National Council will begin the process of planning for a national leadership convention it did not want to hold. Sandy.
Thanks, Judy. So where does all this leave the Bloc? Losing 11 seats to the Liberals, but still in a position to play kingmaker. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin now with what the Bloc is saying the day after. Hi, Jen.
Yes, Andy, the old adage that a path to a majority cuts through Quebec held true, with the Bloc landing results that it called a modest success. Leader Yves-François Blanchet and his troops lost seats to the Liberals, but held on to just enough to keep a Liberal wave from washing across the province.
We have controlled a wave with our bare hands. So we are entitled to be proud. But I lost some very close friends.
And now the Bloc says it's prepared to work with the Liberals. Some longtime Bloc MPs lost their seats, particularly in regions just outside the island of Montreal. Analysts say in large part that's because many Quebecers draped themselves in the Canadian flag, preferring to fight the threat from the U.S. than focusing on Quebec's identity within Canada. And now the Bloc Québécois has a balancing act on its hands, fighting for its raison d'être, Quebec independence, but at the same time protecting Canada from the threat from the U.S. Sandy.
Oh, Genevieve in Montreal. Thanks, Jen. All right, let's bring in CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Capellas, the woman who never sleeps. Vashi, it sounds like Mark Carney may get the support that he needs to prevent another election, at least this year. Is that your sense of it as well?
I think you're spot on, Sandy. And just with what Jen was saying, the Bloc's leader's comments today talking about a truce, for example, with the Liberal leader. I mean, the thing is, he only needs 3 people from either the Bloc or the NDP, or in some instances, maybe even the Conservatives, in order to pass on a case-by-case basis the kind of stuff that the Prime Minister does end up wanting to pass. So I think it's totally possible and maybe even probable at this point in time, all these hours later after the results came in, to say that those dance partners will likely not be very hard to find and will not require some sort of formal agreement like we saw between Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh.
All right, so that being the case, what can we expect to see from Mark Carney? Is he fired up to get things going and going quickly?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you know, even if I separate his own motivations, I think Canadians are expecting that, right? The message, the pitch from the Liberals, and in particular the Prime Minister over the course of the campaign, was we want to get things done. I think at one point I remember Mark Carney saying, maybe it was in a podcast, Prime Minister Carney, that Canadians want to do big things at this moment in time. And so he will have to deliver on those big things. And I think in short order, it's a fair and accurate thing to say at this point, at least, the expectations are very high. That call with Donald Trump that you reference, you know, setting in stage a visit, setting in motion, I should say, a visit that the release from the Prime Minister's office says will happen in short order in the near future. So already lots going on there. Sandy?
Okay. All right, Vashi, thanks so much. Well, looming over the election, the tragic events of Saturday night in Vancouver. 11 people dead, many injured and still in hospital, after an SUV drove into a crowd at a Filipino festival. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson now with more revelations about the man in police custody.
Sandy, we are learning more about the mental state of the man accused of mass murder on a Vancouver street and the victims who were in the wrong place at the worst time. At massive memorials in East Vancouver, emotion is raw.
The moment we stepped in here, you can feel that pain.
Pain also being felt by the Premier.
The #1 priority is ensuring justice for the Filipino community. David Eby is also confirming the accused killer, Kai G. Adam Lowe, who police say was behind the wheel of the SUV that plowed through pedestrians at a street festival, killing 11 of them, was under the supervision of a mental health care team. For me, that leads to a whole array of additional questions, and I just want to assure British Columbians that if the criminal process is not able to surface these issues and answer these questions that we have, that we will call a full public inquiry. That comes after Vancouver police said Lowe had a brush with law enforcement the day before the attack.
That contact was not criminal in nature, and it did not rise to the level where mental health intervention was required.
Online fundraisers are generating hundreds of thousands of dollars for the families of victims. People like Richard Lee, his wife Lynn, and their 5-year-old daughter Katie, all killed, leaving behind 16-year-old Andy.
He's still trying to absorb the situation, and I don't think he has fully comprehend what have happened.
And Kira Salim, a teacher who moved to Canada from Brazil, described as deeply committed to young people. In the legislature, the opposition Conservatives are straight up asking the question, did the system fail both the accused and the victims? A debate just getting started. Sandy?
CTV's Andrew Johnson. Coming up after the break, 100 days in the Oval Office.
We're just giving them a little chance.
Donald Trump marks a milestone and signals a softening stance. Donald Trump is marking the first 100 days of his second term as U.S. president. And today, an event he'll mark at a rally in Michigan. And he's bringing with him some welcome news for the auto sector. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon is with us now. And Joy, so what is the word from Donald Trump? And is it good news?
It's been a lot, hasn't it? 100 days. The president will take a victory lap tonight, focusing on the economy returning to battleground Michigan, and that's no coincidence. The Motor City, home to the big three automakers, and the president wants to show that he's committed to bringing manufacturing back to America. His new executive order that he's just signed walks back some of the duties the president slapped on foreign car parts. In an industry so connected to Canada and Mexico, the car makers complain, so it's welcome relief. Here's what the president said.
We just wanted to help them during this little transition, short term. And during this little, if they can't get parts, you know, it has to do with a very small percentage. If they can't get parts, we didn't want to penalize them. And they have a one-year period and then they have an extra year. But it's for a very, very small part of the car. Basically, they're paying 25%.
Sandy, the president is giving car makers 2 years to move production back to America, and they can apply for relief. Marking his first 100 days, though, polls show voters aren't too happy with Trump's tariffs or the economy. His approval ratings, even on Fox News, among the lowest for any newly elected president in decades. Sandy?
Okay, Joy, thanks so much. Well, we've got some more details for you now on that phone call between Mark Carney and Donald Trump, who've both agreed to meet in person soon. The Prime Minister's office says President Trump congratulated him on the win and agreed to work together as independent sovereign nations. The statement adds both leaders talked about meeting in the near future. Now, France's President Emmanuel Macron also spoke to the newly elected Prime Minister, saying he was looking forward to working with him, quote, elbow to elbow. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer pointed to Carney's personal ties to the UK and hoped to, quote, deepen the economic relationship to deliver security for the people of both our countries. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called Canada a valued member of NATO, adding he's looking forward to working together to build a stronger alliance and investing more in defense. And India's Narendra Modi also congratulated Mark Carney at a time of strained relationship between the two countries. Still ahead, a deepening divide, how the vote results are splitting sentiments in the West. Back to our election coverage. The Liberals made a number of promises to voters throughout the campaign. And as we heard when we were speaking with Vashi earlier, now the work begins for Prime Minister Mark Carney's minority government to deliver. CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa now with a reminder of those key electoral promises. Colton.
Sandy, for the past 5 weeks, Mark Carney has made Canada's response to Donald Trump's tariffs a cornerstone of his campaign. Now he'll have to follow through on his promise to unite Canada and start negotiating a new trade deal with the United States. Carney and Trump spoke over the phone today, the Prime Minister's office saying they agreed on the importance of working together as sovereign nations. The two leaders agreed to meet in person in the near future. Meanwhile, the Liberals say they'll remove federal internal trade barriers by Canada Day and invest $5 billion towards the creation of a national trade and infrastructure corridor. Last night, repeating his promise to make Canada a superpower in conventional and clean energy. Carney's tax cuts are one of the first changes he plans to bring in. The Liberals want to cut the marginal tax rate on the lowest income bracket by 1 percentage point, saving families over $800 a year. Meanwhile, his housing plans are slower, promising to double the speed of housing construction, but only over the course of the next decade. And then there's the single biggest cost in the Liberal platform, $18 billion to rebuild and rearm Canada's military, with a special focus on Arctic defense and hitting NATO's spending targets by 2030 at the latest. And while many of Carney's proposed ideas mirror similar promises by opposition parties, he'll need their support to get them passed. But the only area opposition parties have said they're ready to help is standing up against Donald Trump. Sandy.
Okay, Colton, thank you for this. The Maple Leafs have another chance to close out the rival Ottawa Senators tonight as the series moves back to Toronto for Game 5.
Played to the line, but not out. Sanderson helps.
The Sens stayed alive with that Game 4 overtime winner and now trail 3-1. The Oilers will be in action against the Kings tonight. That series is knotted at 2. Meanwhile, the Canadiens trail the Capitals 3-1, while the Jets and Blues are deadlocked at 2 games apiece. And the cherry blossoms are blooming. That's Toronto's annual sign of spring. The yearly tradition in the city's High Park is a chance for visitors and residents to take in the vibrant colors. The welcome sight also means now that spring is here, summer is right around the corner. CTV National News will be right back. Canadians made their choices known yesterday. Some 67% of eligible voters and counting cast a ballot. That's really good. It all handed the Liberals and Mark Carney a mandate to govern. The Conservatives gained seats but left Pierre Poilievre wounded. The NDP collapsed and lost a leader. So today, as we look to what lies ahead, we want to leave you with some of the memorable moments of last night's election. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. We'll see you tomorrow, we hope. Bye.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? We are all Canadian, and my government will work for and with everyone.
Conservatives will work with the Prime Minister and all parties with the common goal of defending Canada's interests and getting a new trade deal.
Obviously, I know this night is a disappointing night. I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed.
We all have to consider working together with our differences.
If we're not there, democracy suffers, and that's why we'll keep being there. We'll fight for our space, and we will be effective opposition.